to demonstrate your phenotype or disposition.
Yes.
Yeah. There's so one leg was the size of 2 of your current legs.
Believe it or not, in junior high, I wore these. I'm Trey Bennett, nurse practitioner, and I went plant-based vegan in 2012 after I watched Forks Over Knives. As soon as I watched that and learned about how plant-based foods can help you thrive and live a healthy life, I also wanted to prevent high cholesterol in myself because I saw that my father suffered through that. When I was a kid, he had to have multiple different high cholesterol medications, different dosages, and he also suffered the side effects of those medicines. So I knew that I didn't want to mess with that. So I wanted to treat high cholesterol naturally, and that's what led me to Forks Over Knives and eventually to a plant-based vegan diet. I was a high protein, kind of meat heavy eater at that point. I like to joke that essentially growing up here in the Midwest, I ate meat, potatoes, and more meat. Kansas City barbecue, of course, right? Barbecue is baked into our, or should I say smoked into our culture here in Kansas City. And so growing up, I definitely tried all the best barbecue around here. But by the time I watched Forks Over Knives, I was essentially ready to give it up. I would do anything to prevent heart disease in myself and also just try to live a longer, happier, healthier life, essentially.
So how did you even come across Forks Over Knives?
When I was working as a bedside nurse at the best hospital in Kansas City, I had a health screening, and they showed me my results, and they circled my total cholesterol as high, and that got my attention. And so that's what led me to trying to search for ways to essentially treat or lower my cholesterol naturally. The first documentary that was in that genre that I watched was Food Inc., Food Incorporated. And that combined with Forks Over Knives is really what pushed me to really become more mindful about what I was eating, and that led me towards a plant-based vegan diet.
It's been a while since I've seen Forks Over Knives. I don't remember if the takeaway was like, no amount of meat is good. Because it did seem like it was pretty powerful for me too, but I didn't go vegan until I saw Gary Yourofsky's speech.
Right. So for me, the takeaway from Forks Over Knives was, number one, that dairy has a powerful carcinogen in it. Casein protein, Dr. T. Colin Campbell talked about that in depth. And then essentially that anything with dietary cholesterol was very likely to clog up arteries. And that's what I essentially took away from Dr. Esselstyn's part in Forks Over Knives.
Okay. And do you remember what your total cholesterol was before when all this was going on? When they circled it?
I believe it was in the 160s.
Oh, that's not even that bad.
Right, and yeah, compared to today's standards, it's not really that bad. But so I'm actually very thankful that the nurse circled it as high because it got my attention and led me down this path. I don't know what I would have become outside of that, but you know, it's kind of changed the whole trajectory of my career, essentially.
Wow. I had mine circled essentially in 2010. Right before I went vegan. I didn't even like connect it to. It was just like, it just happened to be I had my jump out at me because the doctor was like, oh, you're a little high. It was 168. So,
right.
And he said, oh, you're a little high. And I was like, oh, really? It kind of like, did shock me a little bit, but I didn't really know what it meant, you know?
Right.
And then like 5 years after being vegan, I had to test it again for whatever reason. And it went down to like 121 or something. Right. So what did yours go down?
That's a good question. I did have my labs drawn this year. I believe it's in the 140s, if I remember right.
So it's below 150, right?
Yes.
And that's like the sweet spot, right?
Right,
below
yes.
That,
yes,
supposedly.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you had gone to a lifestyle medicine provider, they probably would have explained to you what was leading to that moderately high total cholesterol in the 160s, 170s. So.
Well, this doctor told me I need to eat leaner meat.
Yes, I mean they just believe everyone's going to eat meat in America, so they just say to eat the leaner meat, and that's definitely not the approach that I take at this point. Just because, essentially dietary cholesterol, there is no recommended amount of dietary cholesterol, so essentially the less the better.
Now, do you get more nuance like with the particle size, ApoB, lipoprotein little a, things like that?
I do get more nuanced when people ask for that, and also if people are found to have a high risk in other cardiovascular measurements.
Like homocysteine, C-reactive protein?
Exactly, and also coronary calcium scores.
Okay, you're looking at
I'll
that.
order those, yep. Those are helpful.
And that can actually increase as a person's getting healthier.
The coronary calcium score?
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard that as well, because essentially the older plaques are calcified and they're also less likely to be essentially
Dislodged.
volatile or dislodged.
Yeah, wow, yeah, cool. That's fun to interject there, because sometimes people even say things like, well, I have a 0 calcium artery, whatever score, and it's like, well, maybe it hasn't calcified yet.
Right, yeah, it's true, yes.
It's not your non-calcified coronary artery, whatever, plaque volume. So,
yeah, you have to go through a more invasive study to get the non-calcified, essentially.
I had one of those where they did like an ultrasound kind of thing on my coronary artery and all these different arteries.
Like a screening?
Yeah, and he was like, oh, I'm textbook perfect. He was like, that's just because you're young. I was like, what do you mean young? He's like, well, people don't start seeing that until they're in their 40s. I'm like, I'm 52, man.
That's great.
I actually got I videoed the whole thing on my phone.
Yeah, it's a really good testament to a plant-based vegan diet. It really, your arteries just stay clean.
Yeah.
In general.
So doctors don't follow this test routinely until you're more than 50% blocked, 50. They don't even do surgery until you're more than 70% blocked. It's like they're waiting for you to stroke out. And I talked to doctors about it, concerned for my patients, and they said, don't get it twisted. We want to do surgery. That's how we make money. So the gold standard for everyone is to wait for that 70% marker. Now you have nothing to worry about. You're perfect on this side. You don't even have a speckle plaque, not even a trace amount.
It sounds like your total cholesterol dropped. Did you notice any other changes after going vegan or plant-based?
So when I first went plant-based, I definitely noticed a boost in energy and lower recovery time. Because at that time, before I went plant-based or vegan, I had the big jugs of whey protein, and I would just slam whey protein and lift weights in the gym and all that, and I literally threw that out into the compost pile right after watching Forks Over Knives, and never looked back, essentially, as far as protein supplements go. So I definitely noticed that. I also got leaner as well. I lost about 10 pounds of body fat, I would say, potentially more. It's been a while. But definitely leaned out and had improved performance.
Prior to watching Forks Over Knives, were there any other seeds that maybe prepared you for taking it all away once you saw Forks Over Knives?
Right, so growing up, I had a really tight-knit relationship with lots of animals. I was in essentially like a nature camp. And I also just was, I was actually considering becoming a veterinarian. And so I always just loved animals. Every one of our dogs I, grew up really close with. And so essentially, as soon as I saw images of CAFOs and things like that in Food Incorporated, that started to ring bells as far as the suffering that goes into animal-based foods. Before that, I didn't really recognize that. So I always had empathy for animals, and then essentially the health aspect is what really pushed me in the right direction, because I had this worry about having high cholesterol and or heart disease later in life.
So it sounds like you've done a lot of this mostly for health reasons, and you just shared with me some of the ethical reasons as well. Has this become something that's like essentially a moral obligation for you now?
Yes, I would say it has become a moral obligation for me to avoid animal products because of the suffering that goes into them. And from my perspective as a provider, I definitely see a connection between the suffering that the animals go through and then the suffering that the people who consume a lot of animals go through. From my perspective, there's a lot of overlap with that. Essentially, you think about animals in cages and really packed in together, and then you think about a hospital room where someone is essentially captive and being treated, and they can't really leave, and they're suffering similarly as an animal in an operation.
A hospital
as well.
ward. Or something.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right, yeah. And I used to work as a bedside nurse in the hospital, and so I've seen a lot of people that are suffering, and that's one thing that really started to turn the wheels when I was working as a bedside nurse as well. Was I noticed that all the people with kind of the standard American diseases, the heart disease, high cholesterol, cancer, type 2 diabetes, all these people were essentially eating the standard American diet, and they would complain anytime that their doctors ordered them, say, a diabetic-friendly diet or a cardiac-friendly diet, which we all know really isn't even an accurate representation of that, because all of those would be devoid of animal products if they were truly heart healthy and truly helpful for diabetes. But I definitely started to notice this connection between the standard American diet and these standard American diseases. And I knew that I wanted to prevent that for myself and my family, and also help my patients by catching these diseases early before they made it to the hospital, and help them live longer, happier, healthier lives through preventing these conditions that cause so much suffering in America.
And you're lifestyle medicine certified, right?
Yes, I'm certified in lifestyle medicine through ACLM.
Yeah, and that's so cool because I really love the 6 pillars you got there on the wall. That resonates with me. I think about that, and I try to talk about that in any interview I can. There's really definitely something to live by. The one I struggle with the most is the community one, which is what brought me to Kansas.
Nice.
I met you at the Thrive Alive festival.
Yes.
And that was really cool.
It was.
And it's really important, the community aspect, because it really affects all of the other pillars as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
So and what's fascinating about you is you're a licensed nurse practitioner, is that right?
Exactly.
But you're able to help people learn how to integrate these pillars, this lifestyle medicine, into their life. And they can also use their insurance to get this help.
Right. Exactly. The best analogy that I've come up with is that I'm a health coach with prescriptive authority. So I can essentially meet people where they are, ask them what their health goals are, and then together we can work towards achieving those, or at least working and moving in the right direction. So for a lot of my patients, one of their health goals is to reduce medication use or reduce side effects related to medications. So that's the way that I like to use my prescriptive authority mostly. So I can help people taper off medicines over time, or switch to a different medicine that has less side effects. Essentially, the patient's health goals become our health goals, and we work together as a team towards achieving those.
Typically, it's like, why don't doctors do this? Oh, they don't have enough time, like they got 5 minutes or whatever. Are you able to spend quality time with them, kind of assessing their needs and helping them hone in on these things in a way?
Yes, I'm definitely able to spend more time with patients. That is definitely one luxury of having my own clinic. Essentially, I can create my own schedule and essentially block off enough time for each patient. So it's definitely a patients and people over profits type of model. So essentially, I definitely spend probably 3 to 5 times more time with patients than they have ever spent with any other provider.
Wow, wow, wow. And you can work on meal plans even, maybe?
Right, yes.
Wow, wow. A lot of people are struggling with sleep these days. Like, you can maybe help them figure out how to develop some better sleep hygiene and...
Definitely, yes. I've got, resources for each pillar, so depending on what the patient's goals are, we can run through resources and then talk about, essentially the way I like to go about it is lifestyle first, supplements or vitamins second if necessary, and then medications or imaging or procedures third.
Let's spin through the 6 pillars just so anybody watching knows what they all are. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so number 1 is healthful eating and nutrition with a wholesome plant food diet. Number 2 is increasing physical activity. And number 3 is developing strategies to manage stress. Number 4 is related to risky substance use. We want to avoid or reduce that. We want to form and maintain relationships. And finally, we want to improve sleep.
Yeah. And they all kind of interconnect. When you're eating right, you're going to exercise better. When you exercise better, you're going to sleep better. When you sleep better, you're not going to want to do drugs.
Exactly.
When you got good relationships, it all, like, you can keep it going.
Right.
And then all that helps you sleep.
The ACLM has it written out on a sheet of paper. I might have messed up the order a little bit there, but I know those top 3 are definitely, the most important because, yes, you're right. Down the bottom 3 are downstream of the top 3 typically. Yeah.
If you mess up those other 3, the top 3, then how are you going to sleep good,
Exactly.
Yeah. It's easy to let devices get in the way and not be disciplined. And the relationships one, like, how would you work with somebody on that? You're a counselor too?
Well, I will say that most of the work I do is probably on the top 3 pillars, but if someone's having a relationship struggle, I would definitely give them resources for talk about, seeking out the help of a counselor. I can send a referral if necessary and essentially facilitate that person getting help for the relationship struggles.
How frequently might somebody see you, like if they become one of your patients?
Right, so it depends on the location of the patient and what they have going on. I would say that I think lifestyle medicine does require potentially more visits than your average provider, just because we are working on health goals and not just looking at numbers and biomarkers. So ideally, 1 visit per chronic condition per year. So if a patient has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, is overweight, at least 3 visits a year is probably optimal.
I don't see my doctor but once every few years, it feels like. But I do think it would be nice to see somebody more regularly just to make sure I'm keeping these things fine-tuned,
Right.
This is, to me, an exciting interview because I want vegans to be successful. I feel like everybody could be vegan as long as they have access to food, they have all these pillars, the social support, they're staying healthy. You're going to want to be the best you can be. I'm excited to know as much about this and get this kind of information out there because if somebody is struggling, they're not going to be as effective of an advocate if they're having difficulties. They might even decide, oh, it's veganism that is kind of making it hard to have social connections. I can see that being very likely the case for, I imagine, anybody who's said, oh, I'm no longer vegan. Like, is it because of the social pressure? Really, it's the ethical anchor that helps us endure the social pressure and the learning curve. Because there is a learning curve to eating this way. There is a social pressure. You got to have that moral anchor. And
agreed.
Otherwise, it's like, oh, somebody's like, grandma's like, oh, just eat a little piece of whatever. It's like, okay, Granny, you don't want to make her sad because you're not eating whatever she made.
Right.
But that ethical premise would help you assertively deal with that. And so do you see vegans in your practice?
Yes, I see a lot of vegans in my practice, and that is one of my passions, is to help make sure that vegans are able to thrive and continue their veganism, because Oftentimes, I think if people are failing on a vegan diet or not feeling their best, it's because of potentially deficiencies. There are common deficiencies across all diets, and then there are common deficiencies among vegans. There's a lot of overlap there, honestly, but I definitely have essentially a vegan panel that I'll run for my people that are vegan, and then adjust that based on the patient's symptoms, whether they're male or female, age, etc.
I really like that you said there's common deficiencies across all diets.
Yes.
Veganism isn't like a very specific diet at all. It's not even a diet. It's just diet has the biggest impact and the thing you gotta work on the most. And if you haven't been doing this before, you can't expect to do it perfect right out the gate.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've had, in the same day, I've had someone eating the standard American diet and a vegan or plant-based eater come in and they have the same deficiencies. So there is a lot of overlap between those.
One thing that it would be really cool to clear up is if I am having a difficulty, say stomach discomfort or maybe fatigue or maybe headaches, whatever it is, and maybe if it's a diet related thing, how do I know if I should go to a food coach, a dietitian, a nutritionist, now a nurse, or my doctor? Because like the doctor might not know, they might just try to give me a pill, treat a symptom. Like how do I really know where to go?
Right, so how I like to handle that, I do have a design that I created to help people navigate essentially the role that I play in a care team, but I don't have to become someone's primary care provider. I can instead be, see them as more of like a nutritionist or a lifestyle medicine specialist, if you will. I'm happy to help wherever I can, and so that, if someone comes to me and there's something that they need to be referred out for, referred to a specialist, I'm happy to do that. Also, I can refer to dietitians or health coaches, other people to essentially join the care team and help them. I do my best to help my patients non-invasively. I believe in the power of education over medication, and in my case, what I'm imparting on my patients primarily is lifestyle medicine education so that they can survive and thrive without too many medications, where even a lot of people want to minimize supplements even. And also one of my passions is to try to minimize unnecessary procedures and or radiation through imaging.
And then I'm looking at your Venn diagram, and it's got nutritionist, dietitian. It kind of shows it overlaps lifestyle medicine. So there's a health coach. Sometimes it's like, well, where do I fit in this? Like lifestyle advice, nutrition advice, conventional medicine, integrative functional medicine. Which one are you?
I'm right in the middle.
In the middle. Oh, you're in the middle.
Yep.
I see it now. Yeah, because you got your logo there. I thought you were just saying that was lifestyle medicine in the middle, but
right. There's a lot of overlap in what I do and what I can do for a patient. If someone's wondering if it would be a good fit, just reach out. I'm happy to do a 15-minute free phone call consult.
You literally are in the middle. Like normally I would think like the primary care physician would be in the middle.
Right. Well, for a lot of my patients, I am their primary care provider. I'd say it's about 50%, maybe greater, that I'm their primary care provider, and then about 50% where I'm essentially, they keep their PCP and I join the care team in order to bring a different perspective than their PCP. A lot of times, like you said, the primary care provider is more of a 15, 20-minute visit, kind of in and out thing. A lot of times, one of the things that my patients are pretty shocked with is that I actually sit down and go through the labs line by line and answer all their questions about their lab results. Most patients have never experienced that in their life, and I think, honestly, I think that's sad, but solidifies my role in the healthcare community and the healthcare team, essentially just helping these patients understand, learn more about their own body so they can, once you know better, you can do better and feel better, essentially.
For lack of better words, this kind of just blew my mind because it's like, all right, I've been calling it primary care physician. You're a primary care provider. So the primary care can be by somebody other than a physician. That's so cool because we need to be getting away from the traditional treating of symptoms.
Right.
And this is the perfect way to do that.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, the conventional way of essentially a pill for every ill. That's the same system that my father essentially got stuck in. I remember growing up, it was like his generation, the medications were coming out, so it was essentially, oh, you know, the commercials were starting to play. If you have this symptom, take this medicine. And so he would essentially, you know, he had essentially a pill for every symptom, and it's, I believe, ended up coming back to bite him in the end, unfortunately.
And what do you mean by that?
So my father was given a grim diagnosis in 2014, and as I said, up until that point, he was a pill for every ill kind of guy. And so he had taken medicines that it seems like may have led to that grim diagnosis, essentially over time by weakening his immune system. He got this diagnosis, and then he was sent around to several specialists. He saw a pulmonologist, a cardiologist, among others. And the cardiologist that he saw happened to give him the PCRM Vegan Starter Guide. I was, of course, by this time already hounding him to watch Forks Over Knives, and I believe he had sat down and tried to watch it a couple times, but never quite finished the film. And so he was essentially told by his cardiologist that you know, his mortality, his likelihood of mortality would be reduced if he were to go vegan at that time, but unfortunately he chose not to, and he passed away about a year later. And I actually do have the Vegan Starter Guide that he gave me. He ended up just giving it to me knowing that I would be interested in it, and that he didn't feel like he could make that change at that point in his life. He passed away at the age of 68. You know, essentially his death inspired me to create a clinic and to move into a direction where I could say that essentially if my father was to come to my clinic, he might still be alive today. And that gives me a lot of, that, you know, it really inspired me to do what I'm doing today.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. And you're licensed in 8 states, right?
I am.
What are they?
Those are, and it's ever changing. Always shouldn't be subtracting any. I should be adding some over time. But essentially, we've got right now Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, Oregon, and Washington.
Cool.
And so if you live in any of those states, Kansas, here in Kansas is the only place that I see patients in person currently. Considering, you know, if there is a need for me to see patients in other states in person, that will be filled. Just let me know if you'd like me to come to your state or city and see you there. But all those other states, I can see those patients through telehealth, and I can order, you know, personalized labs. That's one of my passions, as well as just, you know, really taking some time putting in the lab order. Unfortunately, a lot of primary care providers just order, you know, the same 3 or 4 labs on everyone, and it doesn't really tell you much about what's going on inside your body. And so what I see as my role, both my parents were teachers, and so they also kind of warned me about getting in the education field. So, but nevertheless, I'm still in an education role here. Essentially, like I said, education over medication. So I'm really spending some time teaching my patients about what's going on inside their body, how they can change that, and how that can help them achieve their health goals.
Nice. Wow. Wow, it feels like you've got the perfect position in the grand scheme of what really needs to be happening moving forward with healthcare in this country, I feel like. Because I really want to see lifestyle medicine just elevated in every way possible, and you're like the spearhead of it right here, right now. You're able to really do it right without the burden of being like this doctor. Like you're in the perfect position, it seems like. That's
Right.
so cool.
Yeah, and I definitely was an early adopter of lifestyle medicine. It goes all the way back to watching Forks Over Knives and just, and that first ACLM conference I went to, I was able to meet a lot of people that were in Forks Over Knives and essentially meet and get a picture and an autograph with all my heroes, So it was just really amazing. And I found my tribe in lifestyle medicine, definitely. And it's definitely what I will do for my entire healthcare career.
Now, you're also raising your children vegan, right? And is that
Yes.
from conception?
Our youngest, Willow, was vegan from conception. Our eldest, Sage, was not.
Okay. So how long has she been vegan?
Sage has been vegan about 7 years.
Cool. And how old is she?
She is 11.
11. Okay. Yeah, that was fun seeing her on the panel and everything had to thrive. And it seemed like she was having a great time.
Yes, yes. We had an amazing time as a family at that event. I mean, you talk about community, it was just amazing. Loved it.
Now, why did it take a minute for Sage to get in the game?
Right, so believe it or not, I was the first one in my family, my close family and my extended family to go plant-based or vegan. And so my wife was, when I first met her, she was kind of vegetarian and had chicken every once in a while. And so over time, she started to whittle away at things and eventually became plant-based vegan about 7 years ago.
Okay, wow. And was that because you like guilt tripped her or what?
The way I did it, I really just led by example and also kind of pointed out, I was honest with her when it seemed like animal products were leading to a symptom or a condition that she didn't like. So that's one thing that I often bring up is essentially that sometimes these foods or habits or behaviors that we love are leading to symptoms or conditions that we hate. And so we have to mindfully, think through that and decide, make the decision, a long-term decision usually, if we can turn back the time on those symptoms and or conditions in order to reverse them by giving up some of the things that we love and finding new favorites. Really, that's what it's all about, finding healthy swaps. I do recommend anytime you subtract something you love, try some new things at the same time so that you are, in the long run, essentially finding new favorites and creating healthy swaps.
Yeah. And sometimes just removing something after a couple days, it's like you realize you don't need it anymore.
Right.
Like, without having to add anything new. Like, I just never been a big cheese person, but it just, removing cheese was just like nothing for me. But I know it's like some people, it's like, it's like impossible. It's
Right.
like, really? Come on.
Yeah. Well, for myself and my wife, I know quitting cheese was one of the last things to go, essentially, because, it's got that casomorphin opioid effect, essentially. And so a lot of people love cheese because they are addicted to it, slightly or directly.
And I guess there's plenty of alternatives now that are vegan equivalents. Or you could just find an entirely different thing to eat, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, when I first went plant-based vegan, there was a small fraction of what's on the shelves now, and it's just getting easier and easier to eat a healthy plant-based vegan diet.
Mm-hmm. So Sage, she's been vegan 7 years.
I'd say Sage probably went vegan when she was about 4, and it was after her diagnosis of type 1 diabetes. I was able
After
to...
whose?
Sage's.
Oh, she has type 1 diabetes?
Yes, and so as soon as she was diagnosed, the Mastering Diabetes team, Cyrus and Kylie primarily, just kind of took her under their wing and really helped us learn how to implement a low-fat, plant-based lifestyle for Sage. And it really, really helped us transition, because essentially the conventional doctors and even the hospitals, the diabetic educators, left us really confused. And Mastering Diabetes was able to really give us some clarity, Cyrus and Kylie specifically.
That's so cool because we got to hang out with them.
Exactly.
Just, like, Thrive
yeah.
Alive.
Yeah, they're old friends, definitely.
Wow. And so they'd met before, I guess?
Right. So I actually met Cyrus and Kylie in 2017 at the first ACLM conference I went to. Just a few months later, Sage was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So I reached out to them immediately, and they really helped us navigate the early days of her type 1 diabetes diagnosis. And it was the nudge that my wife and Sage both needed to go all in on a healthy plant-based vegan diet.
I mean, she was doing this early on, so we don't know if, like, I've met people who are type 1 that cut their insulin needs in half because they weren't doing this before, so we don't really have a baseline with her, do we?
True. No, we made the switch really early on, so.
So without a baseline, is there a way to discern how effective this is? I mean, does her doctor or whatever say that she's not needing as much as most people would?
Yes, definitely. Her doctor is always very impressed with her numbers, her time in range with her Dexcom, and they're always essentially saying, oh, just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm, from my perspective, I'm always kind of an optimizer, fine tuner, and I think they could be giving her a few more pointers there, but I guess that's my role.
Now, Willow, on the other hand, was vegan from conception, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And by this point, and how old is Willow?
She is 3.
Oh, wow, so it's very recent. So you guys already had quite a few years under your belt by the time Willow came around.
Exactly. And notably, my wife April says that her fully vegan pregnancy went much better than her prior pregnancy. She didn't have as many issues with constipation or, just these common issues with pregnancy. She didn't have as many with Willow. And actually, Willow came out really healthy, and, you kind of have this misconception that a vegan baby might be malnourished or something like that. No, Willow I think she actually might have weighed more than Sage did. So yeah, she was a very healthy and happy baby from day one.
Breastfeeding and everything has been good to go?
Yes, everything, went off without a hitch.
Like, what foods did you introduce, first, solid food?
That's a good question for my wife.
Yeah. It's hard to remember, isn't it?
It is.
My son's, he's gonna be 22 here coming up, and sometimes I'm like, did I even feed him?
Right. I know there were a lot of avocados, cooked carrots, and things like that early on.
Yeah. And I have a granddaughter now, so it's just so much fun to feed her, like you said, avocados and even tofu and bananas and just the soft stuff that's
right.
And a good variety. And
yes.
It's a lot of fun. And sweet potatoes are a big hit.
Oh yes, sweet potatoes, definitely.
Your 2 kids now seem to be enjoying being vegan as well. Like, they seem to be proud and loud about it even. So, like, Sage was on the stage with some other vegans, which was so cool to see. I'm sure you must have been proud.
Yes, definitely.
Does that happen often that she gets to do stuff like that?
Oh no, definitely. Okay. This is the first event where she was able to be surrounded by other vegan children and meet new friends, and especially the first time she's been on stage along with other vegan children. It was amazing.
Yeah, I got some good video of that, so I'm sure you'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
Maybe you might even want to check out Vegan Summerfest. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of that from you primarily, but
okay.
And potentially Joanne, I think.
Yeah.
Where is that again?
It's in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, at the university, and they've been doing it there for quite a while. Joanne and Serena and Sam, her sister, they kind of grew up going there, and that was, their extended community that really, just normalized veganism for them, and that's such an important thing to experience, and I'm sure you got a good glimpse of how important that could, or how valuable that could be, with the Thrive Alive event that just happened.
Yes, definitely. I do think it is important for creating community and also, meeting other like-minded children, because they need to know that they're not the only one out there who's chosen to eat this way.
Yeah. Now, as far as like Sage in school, she's homeschooled or is she?
She's actually schooled through essentially a hybrid program where she goes to a version of public school virtually through virtual classes and from home.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of the dual purpose of that, was to improve glucose management and then also to provide her excellent nutrition at home.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And I've met quite a few parents who've been homeschooling, and it was so cool because there was a question in the audience about how the kids liked homeschooling, I think. And the person who asked that question wants me to give them a copy of their response, because they all of the ones that were being homeschooled really love it.
Right.
I think it's a cool thing. I'm hoping my granddaughter gets to do that because it seems like it's more advantageous in very important ways.
Right. Yes, definitely.
Like you said, quality nutrition, quality parents can give them quality social skills
Right.
that they need, and
Yeah.
and then you can go to meet other kids, have discipline in that way too. Well, all right.
Right. Yes, definitely. And I do think that's one area that we will work on, is trying to get our daughters out to more events like this, because it was just very rewarding to see them amongst their peers, and it was really nice to see them with other vegan children as well.
I'll be sure to let Serena know that. I'm sure she'll be
Definitely.
very proud of
Yes.
hearing that. I'm sure she's going to need some feedback after working so hard to put this together.
Well, yeah, and my wife was saying that compared to other events, like none of these other conferences or events really are family friendly or have, structure for children to be involved in. That was really refreshing and helpful for us, because without that, we're not able to attend as many of these events. So,
Yeah, cool. And you were a kid once too, right?
I was, yeah.
Do you kind of wish that you were grown up vegan? Or
I
brought
do.
up vegan?
I do definitely. So growing up, believe it or not, you might not notice it or think of it looking at me today, but I grew up obese with asthma and severe allergies. I would think I probably had essentially prediabetes and or high cholesterol when I was a kid too. I weighed about 50 pounds more than I do now when I was in junior high, believe it or not. And that was essentially the product of highly processed foods and a lot of animal foods, a lot of grilled chicken, a lot of leaner meats and low-fat dairy, but it still did not prevent me from being obese.
Yeah. There's also maybe a product of these things.
That's right. Yes. These were a favorite growing up. Some of you might recognize this box, but I definitely remember
Let me
these.
see it.
Yeah.
Toss it here. So what do we got in here? We've got...
You don't want to know. You don't want to look too closely what's in there. I mean, yeah, you need a magnifying glass to look at the ingredients, first of all. That's your first tip off, right?
Well, the first thing I see is Devil's Food Cookie Cakes.
Right.
That's funny. Devil's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were marketed as fat-free, but little do you know.
So it's definitely got skim milk and gelatin, and so definitely animal products in that. I remember when I first went vegan, I was like,
Right.
I wasn't even thinking about food, really. I was just like, I don't want to eat animals. I didn't
Right.
really know what to eat, but I kind of didn't care about what I ate, and I was like always looking for something processed to purchase.
Right.
And it was like always like, they put dairy in everything.
Yes,
It's like, it was like so nerve-wracking. It was like, why does it even need to be in this when it would probably be just as good without it in there? And I almost feel like they just put it in there because they have so much of it or something.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and then
it's
I realized
cheap. It's a cheap ingredient. It really is. That's what it is.
yeah,
It's
and then
cheap.
I realized, learning how to actually eat better, I realized, oh wow, I don't even need ingredients. I could just eat whole foods.
Right. Yes, the best foods don't have an ingredient list
Yeah.
on them at all. Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So the hardest part of going vegan for me was looking at processed foods and thinking, why is this not vegan? And I overcame that by no longer buying foods with ingredients.
Yep. And that's, coincidentally one of the healthiest ways to eat, really, is
Yeah,
eating
yeah.
those whole, minimally or unprocessed foods. Yes.
Yeah. And then you also, to demonstrate your phenotype or disposition,
Yes.
yeah, there's. So
These-
one leg was the size of two of your current legs.
Believe it or not, in junior high, I wore these, and I can't even believe it. Actually,
Yeah,
that's
and
what
those
size I was.
were those tight back then?
I would say so. I did.
What is the
there were-
waist on it?
So the waist on these are 38s.
Yeah, and what are
And
you now?
I did. Now I'm 32, 34.
Okay, wow,
Yeah, and 50 pounds lighter essentially. So
wow.
I did find another pair that was around a 40-inch waist. So yeah,
So you've come a long ways.
yeah, I definitely don't miss, shopping for clothes in the big and tall section essentially.
Yeah. And prior to seeing Forks Over Knives, you were only about, 10 pounds overweight. So you'd already kind of gotten some of that off.
Exactly. Yes, I did.
It sounds like you were maybe working out or something.
Yes. So I've lost weight and gotten lean, kind of a few different ways. I would say the first one that I tried was when I essentially I was going to a beach and I knew there would be beach pictures, and so I believe if I remember right, I went to the gym every single day for a month leading up to this trip to Panama. And I did essentially a circuit, and then I did cardio. And so, yes, I've lost a lot of weight through sweating it out in the gym, essentially. And then I've also lost weight through fasting and just maintaining a healthy, nutrient-dense diet, which is naturally calorie light. And so you fill up on nutrients and fiber without filling up on too many calories, essentially.
Yeah. And because like meat, eggs, and dairy all have saturated fat, which is 9 calories per gram, whereas protein and carbs are only 4. So,
Exactly.
So
Yep.
anytime you're eating animals or their secretions, you're getting more than twice the calories when it comes to the fat.
Right.
And it's not an essential fat, so it's not
Exactly.
even necessary.
Right. And then also, can't remember exactly which year it was, but the FDA came through and essentially banned all trans fats from, the Twinkies and all the things like that with the hydrogenated oils. They banned all those trans fats, but what a lot of people don't know or recognize is that animal foods have trace amounts of trans fats naturally. And trans fats are essentially known to be the worst fat for human health, essentially toxic fats.
Losing weight can help a lot of problems people might be experiencing, cardiometabolic diseases. I'm sure exercising and all these things and fasting might have helped you in a lot of ways, and it does help people. And some people, they go on like a high-fat diet and they lose weight. They're going on this high-fat diet, but they're not in a calorie surplus. They're probably able to obtain a calorie deficit, right? Do you think maybe?
Right. So essentially, you're talking about a ketogenic diet here, and primarily ketogenic diets are going to be animal-based typically. And so, the idea is that they are, instead of filling up on fiber, and they're really minimizing carbohydrates. So essentially, they are filling up and staying full on protein and fats. And it can have short-term benefits, but those are usually just outward on the from the outside, essentially. If you were to draw their labs, it's kind of like judging a book by its cover, if you will. So if you open the book and look at the labs, you'll see that there is likely at least the beginning of worsening of biometric levels, such as LDL cholesterol, increase in insulin resistance. I see it a lot because, so a lot of patients that I see have tried low carb or ketogenic diet and either found it to be unsustainable, or essentially they failed it, or they just got tired of eating bacon and butter all the time. And so they then realize, hey, look at this plant-based. This seems like this makes sense. This looks like something I could do long term. And so they come to me and get advice, and then I help them improve their labs and feel
and
better.
they feel even better. Sometimes people
Exactly.
don't even know what feeling good is.
Right, exactly. And I've had several patients who have had severe side effects of ketogenic diet, and that's another reason that people will seek me out, essentially, because they've got side effects of doing something. They're essentially like, this other person told me to do this, and then I felt like this, help me fix this, and so, yeah.
So you've changed pants sizes, you've changed shoes maybe too, right?
I have, you're right, yes. Yep, so over time I've gone to a more of a barefoot shoe. I used to have a lot of foot pain, and so currently my favorite is Zero Shoes. They have several different vegan-friendly options. They've got, like a vegan leather version, or, several different like canvas or woven shoes. And I have, several of them. I love them. At the Thrive Alive Fest, I was wearing the hiking boot version.
Oh.
I had some good, protection from all the rocks and things in the camp there. But
I'll have to check that out. I'll go ahead and zoom in on them a little bit. What do you get out of me doing this, showing this?
Well,
are you getting brand deals or something?
I do have an affiliate link, but I love people finding things that help them feel better.
People might take their feet for granted.
And a lot of people think foot pain is just, part of aging. It doesn't really have to be. So my mom, for instance, was having a lot of foot pain, and she, at the age in her 70s, switched over to Zero Shoes and hasn't looked back. So.
You also have some other things that you were sharing with me. Talk a little bit about that.
One of the things that I have always liked doing is providing my patients with resources to help them successfully either transition or just, add sustainability to this lifestyle. So for a really long time, I have carried leaf-side meals, because they are dried, prepared meals that you essentially just pour into a bowl and add water and put a lid on. And then about 5 or 10 minutes, you've got a full meal. I've eaten them in airports, while camping, all over the place. I've eaten a lot of them just sitting right at my desk. It's much easier to get that than leave the office and come back.
I haven't tried that yet. I've seen Gregor sporting
Yeah.
one on camera.
Yeah. I was eating them before Gregor was eating them even. So leaf side, and then plant strong foods. I've loved Rip Esselstyn's
Pancakes?
Yes, they've got a pancake mix. They've got cornbread mix, granola, all kinds of great stuff.
Yeah.
But I've been loving his foods ever since it was Engine 2. Do you remember that?
I mean, I've heard about it. I've tried the pancakes. Brian Asbell, a cardiologist in Nashville, when we all went on a hike, he let us meet over there for breakfast, and that's what he whipped up, and they were really good.
Yes.
And my friend Anthony Masiello, who runs Lifestyle Telemedicine, had some too, but I hadn't tried them at his place. He was just showing them off on camera for me.
This is sweet potato and ancient grain pancake mix, and this is fantastic. I've got a little bit of stock here because I send this to my kid who's in school. This is the most convenient vegan pancake mix I've ever seen, because you literally mix this 1-to-1 with either water or a plant milk. And so if you want to make one pancake, you could just mix a 1/4 cup of this with a 1/4 cup of milk, whisk it up, pour it in a pan, and literally make one pancake.
Wow.
Like I have a really good buckwheat pancake mix, but it makes like 12 or 16 pancakes. So I'll only do that if I'm cooking like a big meal. But if you want to just wake up, literally have one pancake yourself, you can use this mix. Or obviously you can cook a big batch of it.
I love that it's sweet potato.
Sweet potato and ancient grains.
Yeah.
And it's got quinoa sweetened with dates.
Nice.
So there's no sugar, there's no oil, obviously. There's no dairy products, nothing like that. It's just a bunch of different grains, sweet potato.
Yeah, they're really good. And then they have burger kits. I remember
The Plant Strong does?
Yes, Plant Strong burger kits, essentially powdered burger mix that you just add water, mix it up, let it sit. I actually made those. Yeah, made those when we got back from Thrive Lab. We had those that night. You just mix it up and then form it up, and we just put it in the air fryer on some parchment paper, and it came out really well. I've also put them on the grill, and they hold up really well. No matter
what is it made out of?
So they've got a black bean version and a portobello mushroom version. Those are the main ingredients of each of those, and then also oats and spices and.
That's cool. So you got the well bars.
The well bean bars. Yeah.
Well beans,
Yeah, so those are delicious. Every time I receive a shipment of those, I always have to sample one or two to remember how they taste. They're delicious.
They stay consistent.
Yes, quality control, right?
There you go.
Those are delicious. I really do love recommending those. I actually recommended them to a patient today. They're kind of similar to a Larabar, but it's like a Larabar with beans and legumes, which adds more protein and more fiber. And so I'm a big fan of that, definitely.
Now, what do you think of Larabars?
I think they're okay. It kind of depends on which one. From my perspective, I would watch the fat and saturated fat and compare that to the fiber, and then kind of figure out which ones are lower in fat.
Good job. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
Well, just because, it's obviously going to be more calorically dense.
Yeah. Well, I say good job because I was testing you. Esselstyn, so I went to a plant stock event that they have. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah, so they used to do it in New York or wherever, and now they do it near me in Black Mountain, North Carolina. They started doing it there right before COVID.
Right.
And I went to the first one that they did. And so I was walking one day, been there a couple days and seen all talks. It was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal event. And Esselstyn and I were walking, and I had a Larabar on me, and I pulled it out and I said, "Hey man, would you eat this?" And he flipped over the the overlapped part in the back there, look at the ingredients, and he's like, "Nah," and he handed it back to me. I'm like, "What do you mean? No, it's Whole Foods, man. What do you mean?"
Right.
He's like, "Saturated fat," I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. So it didn't really sink in until maybe about, and that was like 2019 or something. And maybe 6 months ago, I started thinking more about how much saturated fat is actually in my life right now.
Yes.
And I realized like certain plant milks have it, certain bars have it, so all these things like my Amy's burrito, my Amy's enchilada dish, like all these, I'm like, holy moly, like
it adds up quickly.
Yeah, it adds up quickly, and I'm like, okay, now that's the thing I've been like really honing in on, trying to fine tune.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think if you had a well-being bar, the answer would have been yes from Essie.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I'll have to have one next time I see him.
There you go. Yeah.
And I'll mention you. Afterwards, I'll be like, if he eats it, I'll be like, he was right. If he doesn't, I'll be like, he was wrong. Anyway.
Yeah. So those are I just love helping people succeed with this lifestyle. So having those things in stock or having them at events is one way I can help with that.
Yeah. What else did you have? It seemed like you had something that was like a nuts and seed mix or something. Maybe not.
I think it was granola.
That's what it was.
The Plant Strong granola.
Oh, is that what that was? Okay.
Yeah.
I really enjoy these granolas. Yeah, this is Rip Esselstyn's Plant Strong granola. We've got the apple and we've got the berry. There was also a chocolate and there's a oatmeal raisin granola, but those already have been eaten.
Okay. Why not just make your own granola?
Well, too lazy, I guess. No, I just have a feeling that Plant Strong can do better than I can.
They can source good ingredients.
Yeah. I'm sure it's really good, high quality, and believe it or not, I haven't tried it yet. I hate to say that, but I have not.
The granola one.
I haven't tried the granola yet. After our next event, we're going to try it, whatever doesn't sell. But
Okay, cool.
Haven't done the quality control on that one yet.
Yeah. Back to the kids. Do you feel like that this is actually the best way to raise children?
I do believe that it's the best way to raise children because you're starting at a young age giving them excellent nutrition. And contrast that with how I grew up. You know, I grew up eating the crap that was in that box, and then also bagel-shaped pizzas, and, you know, all kinds of just like frozen, highly processed food, and that did nothing for my health, for my self-confidence, I feel like it probably affected my schooling, really, because of, you know, just all the ingredients, you know, high sodium. Little did I know I had, you know, essentially prediabetes and all these things probably, you know, smoldering in the background. Contrast that with feeding your children whole plant foods from a young age and a vegan diet, you know, cutting out the animal saturated fat, the dietary cholesterol, and all these essentially unnecessary additives that we have in the standard American diet. You've created an environment where your child can thrive from a young age.
Some people have likened it to being the best gift you could ever give them. Do you feel like that summarizes it well?
I do. I believe it's the best gift that your mind can give your body, essentially, because it's a decision that you make in your mind, and your body benefits from it. Your brain does too, but you know, essentially, there are head-to-toe benefits. The sooner the better, and so getting a child started off that way is really a gift to them as well. You know, giving them the knowledge and the tools to eat a healthful diet for the rest of their life. Yeah. It's a really good foundation to start with.
Yeah, I can't imagine really doing it any other way. I mean, you want it to be second nature, right?
Right.
Yeah, and you can't expect them to figure it out later.
Exactly, right. You have to think of it this way, that your decisions become your habits, and then your habits become your lifestyle, and it's your lifestyle and those long-term habits that shape your health and your future throughout your life. And so if you're young and you decide to eat a healthy plant-based vegan diet, that will add up to benefits throughout your lifetime.
I can only imagine, and maybe you can too, maybe that some parents must feel like, oh, well, you're depriving them of having fun, you know, because you're feeding them something healthy instead of feeding them something like what you and I might think is toxic, but they think is like fun, like, you know, like a candy bar and, you know, but not just a candy bar, but ice cream and pizzas and hot dogs and chicken nuggets, and their kids can eat that stuff, and the parents are like, okay, they're happy in that moment.
Right.
What can you say to those, that thought process?
Right. Well, I'd say I come right back to that idea that essentially the things you love could be leading to symptoms or conditions that you hate. So my wife and I were having a conversation. I don't know if you noticed this, but none of the kids at Thrive Live were running around coughing with kind of like a thick mucus cough, or with runny noses just running down their face. That's the lack of dairy. There were kids that don't consume dairy there. And so from my perspective, the dairy that's being pushed to children through food and through ice cream and all these things that are, you know, essentially made or marketed to children lead to these conditions like chronic ear infections, chronic sinus infections, allergies, asthma. These are all things that I went through as a kid, and I ate all those things. So if you're wondering, you know, I've got personal experience eating everything in sight, essentially, and it didn't work out for me, you know, and I wish that I had made the decision earlier to switch to a healthier diet, because I wouldn't have had to go through that suffering of asthma and being obese and all the issues that go with that.
It's kind of obvious probably to us to ask the question, like, what do you say, you know, to those who might accuse you of child abuse or forcing your opinions on, or, you know, your beliefs on them, you know?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I understand that perspective, but from my perspective, I'm just doing what's best for my child from an early age. And, you know, children also know and they recognize children have empathy. It's only when they're raised to grow out of empathy for animals, essentially. So from my perspective, children, if they're reading about a chicken in a book, they don't want to be reading about a cute chicken or seeing a cute chicken and then eating chicken and understanding that they're eating dead animal flesh. So I think that is, something that my children have recognized, that they consider animals to be friends, not food. And that is, I think, admirable for them to recognize that and, understand that at such a young age.
Yeah, it's interesting how you put that, because it's like you're really teaching, or you're raising them within truths, consistently, contiguously,
Right.
in the realm and world of truth. The other way, what Dr. Celeste Raoult would say, on planet A, the books they read are not telling the truth. It's not showing the whole picture. These aren't happy animals. These are animals that are in concentrated animal feeding operations that are horrific, and ultimately they're slaughtered. Imagine that storybook for a child. Like, is that really the storybook of truth that you would want to give your child? No, and people on planet A aren't showing their children these books, even though that's really what's going on.
I think potentially in Food Incorporated, Food Inc., that documentary, they went over this, but one thing that really hit home for me was, you think about farm animals being raised to be slaughtered, essentially, and you think, it doesn't really matter how happy they are, or how natural they're, free range, or, how happy they are. They don't want to die at a young age, and that's what we do. We raise them until they're full grown, and then we slaughter them immediately, essentially, once they reach full grown age, which is a small fraction of their natural lifespan. So that is really unethical from my perspective.
Well, it sounds like you're grounded in the ethics. You came at this from a health perspective, and simultaneously, progressively more and more, at least, the ethics grew on you, and so awesome that your whole family, nuclear family, is on the same page. I'm sure that's a relief.
I don't know if you knew this, but my mom is plant-based vegan as well.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So we've got 3 generations.
Oh, cool.
So we've got my dad, who was told to go vegan, and he didn't, and no longer with us. And then we've got my mom, who for a long time, she was the only attendee at my talks. After seeing my talks a few times, she said, "Oh, well, I guess I'll go plant-based too." And so I believe she's got about 5 years under her belt as plant-based. Yeah.
Man,
and she made the
so
switch
cool.
in her 60s, so anyone can do it.
Yeah, man, you got it going on in both directions. Kids and parents, that's so cool.
Yes.
You must be a contagious guy, man. You are a contagious guy. How do how do you give us some tips on how to inspire others,
Well, it's just, I feel like the more you know, the more these books or documentaries you watch, the more you notice things, and so you can start to understand cause and effect. So like I said earlier, dairy and these chronic, upper respiratory infections, there are several examples of that, and so you can start to recognize cause and effect in other people and say, well, why don't you try subtracting this for an amount of time and see if you feel better. And then when that person feels better, then they want to know what else if they subtracted something else, if they'd feel even better. And then eventually, before you know it, they're eating a healthy plant-based vegan diet.
Well, that's just cool that they'll even come to you, because I guess that's what you do for a living,
Right.
Whereas most vegans like me, it's not what we do for a living, and we wish people would come to us,
Right.
And so we might be a little annoying, like on social media or something, and somebody says something about their, autoimmune disease or whatever, and we're like, well, hey, why don't you try this? And they're like, they just don't act right. They don't want the advice.
Right. It's
Yeah.
true. I mean, I do have the luxury of people coming to me for advice. And don't get me wrong, not all my patients are vegan or plant-based, and it's not a requirement of being a patient of mine. I have had several patients that you might not expect to become vegan and become healthier. One example is a cattle rancher's wife, essentially. She came in with type 2 diabetes and went on a plant-based vegan diet and was able to improve her numbers and reverse her diabetes. So
Wow.
if someone like that can do it, really anyone can do it. And it's becoming easier and easier as time goes on with all the options, healthy options that are out there.
Yeah, you're making me think of Renee, rowdy girl. I don't know if you ever heard of her, but she's a cattle rancher who went vegan.
Yeah.
Or Howard,
yeah.
and Howard Lyman, I guess, right? Wasn't he as
Yes,
well?
I believe so.
Is there any other success stories that you would like to share?
Well, I would say that just overall, it's just really rewarding for me to be in this field because I'm able to see my patients actually get better. So, in conventional medicine, it's kind of like herding cattle through the office and just really quickly seeing patients, and it's a lot of adding more and more medications. Meanwhile, you're kind of just seeing your patient's quality of life or disease spiral downward. And so from my perspective, that was not something that I could sustain as a career. And so for me, lifestyle medicine has been the antidote for that, and it can be the antidote for a lot of the conditions that ail us in America.
Yeah, and I've heard numbers as high as like 75% or something or more maybe.
Right.
Have you heard something like that?
75% of the diseases that we suffer from in America?
Or could be resolved with lifestyle hacks.
Right. Yeah, I mean, essentially, the main killers of Americans are virtually all lifestyle diseases. When you think about, cancers up there, heart disease, those two are kind of duking out for the,
Alzheimer's,
Alzheimer's.
Well, even neurodegenerative diseases.
Right.
Now some say there are, and I have heard like vegans may be at risk for certain things, and it's not a panacea, of course. And that's important to get out there. It's not a panacea, Right. And there's going to be, anecdotes you'll hear about so-and-so dying or whatever. It might make you scratch your head, but you got to remember they're anecdotes, right? Right. Yeah.
Right. And then, the other thing from my perspective is, you don't necessarily want to just go this alone. From my perspective, you want to at least get labs every 1 or 2 years so you know where you are, because labs can change over time due to genetic factors in the background and things like that. So you do want to get checked, and I personally do my levels. I did skip a year there. I'm only human too, but I try to do my levels every year during Men's Health Week, or at least Men's Health Month. That's my goal.
Cool. Yeah, I need to do better at that. I stay so busy. It's hard to take care of myself sometimes. But like Dr. Furman recently, and others I've heard, mention salt a lot. And when I mentioned, vegans being at a high risk for certain things just a second ago, where non-vegans might have a higher risk for ischemic stroke or whatever, we might have a higher risk for hemorrhagic. So everybody's at a high risk for just dying, right?
Yes, right.
And vegans are going to die of something, and maybe we live longer and have a higher risk of dying from something else because we're living longer. I don't know.
Right.
Like being mindful of things like salt intake could probably help, making sure we get our B12. Any other tips like that?
Yes, I would say the top 3 deficiencies that I see in my office on a day-to-day basis are going to be B12, vitamin D, and omegas. And so I would definitely say to make sure that those are on your annual panel. If your provider isn't receptive to that, I'm happy to be your provider and order those labs for you. But essentially, those are the top three that I would keep an eye on. Outside of that, there's some personalization that I can do based on, your genetics or risk factors, family history, things like that, to fine tune for, essentially you're talking about checking labs for longevity, and that's, becoming more and more popular right now. So definitely an area that I'm excited to be in as well.
Okay. Let's talk about like what you plan on doing next, because I feel like there's a lot of potential with what you're doing. I really want to see lifestyle medicine succeed, knowing that there's people like you out there that can help people access assistance in this is really awesome to me. So what are your plans to make this as successful as possible?
Part of my plans include the telehealth expansion. I'm going to continue adding more states, licensure in more states, and also more providers. So I have currently a mental health provider, Jennifer Tebow, who sees patients here in my office, and then also telehealth in Kansas. And she's going to be adding other states. And outside of that, we are going to be organizing more events and more of the community pillar, essentially, because I've had for a long time patients asking for that, and so really looking forward to delivering on that. The other thing I'm working on is something that will be released very soon, which we're calling Care Plus, which is essentially a higher level of care. If you think about it, you could have a diagram where people pay direct, so that would be cash pay patients essentially, and then insurance pay patients, and then Care Plus would be a higher level of care above both of those, and an affordable monthly membership where people get extra benefits for joining, including community and things like that. So that's coming around the pike here pretty soon.
What does an ideal day of eating look like for you?
I do quite a bit of 16/8 intermittent fasting, just because, I have this history of being obese, and so I, like to eat within an 8-hour window a lot of days. And so that looks like, for me, essentially starting eating around lunchtime. Typically, there are going to be potentially some whole grains at lunch, and probably some fresh veggies, some mushrooms, stuff like that. And then maybe a snack in between within that 8-hour window, and then a dinner that is really based on greens and beans primarily, some fresh veggies and maybe some mushrooms and things like that. Omegas sprinkled on all of it when I remember, and lots of water and tea along the way. For my family, they eat 3 meals, and so they're going to start out with typically some oatmeal or some granola, along with some typically unsweetened forager yogurt, and some fresh fruit and or berries for breakfast, and then move into something like a quesadilla, vegan quesadilla with like some queso on a corn tortilla, because they do eat primarily gluten-free. We didn't talk much about that, but anyways, so you can make a vegan quesadilla out of that, and then they're going to have a lot of whole grains, rice and beans for lunch and dinner. And as we move through the day, we get less calorie dense and more nutrient dense. So essentially, that's where the greens and beans come in. So the ideal dinner for me is a big salad, really, with just enough greens and beans to fill me up, and then kind of wind down caloric intake for the day.
So you kind of cover the categories of legumes, greens, grains, fruits.
Yeah,
You didn't really say
fruits. Well,
and
oh man,
the berries.
I forgot to mention fruits, man. I eat. If I had enough apples laying around at the Thrive Alive Vegan Fest, I think I had 4 or 5 apples a day just because they had that huge. And that's what I would do on a day-to-day basis if I could. I love apples. No, 1 apple a day will not keep the doctor away. You need more than that, especially with all the toxic world we live in. But apples are super nutrient dense, antioxidant rich, and definitely a favorite of mine.
Yeah. So legumes, greens, grains, fruits, veggies.
Seeds.
You mentioned veggies. I'm trying to think of what you mentioned.
Well, yeah, just I was thinking like fresh veggies, kind of like peppers and
Yeah.
whatever. We've got an organic garden, so whatever's
cool.
growing in the backyard, cucumbers, peppers, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah. And then mushrooms, nuts, seeds, herbs, spices, seaweeds.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah. That's good stuff. And then your kids like all that stuff.
They really do. Yes, they really do. They love it, and it's pretty impressive. It's kind of fun for us as parents to just see our 3-year-old just loving like broccoli and things like this, and other there's always kind of like that excuse like, oh well, I don't feed my kids that because they don't like it. Well, I mean, if they don't really grow up knowing other things, then they're just going to keep eating the nutrient-dense, healthy thing. They've never had a McDonald's cheeseburger or a chicken McNugget at this point, so they don't even know what those taste like, luckily.
Yeah, I mean, they eat what you feed them.
Right.
And they love it because...
They do. They really do.
Yeah.
They really, truly do. And they're healthy, and their immune system, that's the other thing that I've really noticed that we didn't cover. I mean, I did talk about the mucus. Vegan kids' immune system seem to be much stronger than others from my perspective. I've seen just some of their friends that aren't vegan just seem to be sick a lot more often than they are. And if they do get sick, they recover really quickly. It's more like a 24-hour thing than a 3 to 5 day thing, requiring medication. They don't really even require, our kids don't really require much medication. So,
when I went vegan in 2011, prior to that, I would get sick twice a year, every year, spring and fall, and that's why.
Same here. Yeah.
And that's why I had my blood work done in 2010, because I was wheezing, I was so sick, and he wanted to make sure I wasn't getting like pneumonia or something.
Yeah.
And he did X-rays on me and everything. And I haven't been sick like that since. Since 2011, I haven't been sick like that since. Literally, not once.
Right.
Not once. And I was crazy during COVID. I was all over the place. Peak of COVID, I was out there everywhere. I was flying places. It was cheap. New York, there was nobody else on the road in New York, so I was like, I'm going to New York. I owned the world. It was just awesome.
That's funny.
I ate at Chipotle more than I ever have in my life. Everything was cleaner than ever. Everybody was wearing masks, spraying everything, gloves, and I'm like, this is the best time to eat out.
Right.
I'm like, I own this.
Yeah, that's nice, and it is really true. I mean, I talked about asthma and things, but I really did have essentially bronchitis twice a year, and it was predictable, and it was essentially from, I don't know if yours was the same way, but mine was essentially allergy-induced bronchitis or allergy-induced sinus infection. So the first, would be allergies first, and so that's kind of the seasonal aspect of it. You'd be allergic first, and then a pathogen would get in there. And
but you stopped getting them after going vegan?
Yes.
So it was allergy induced, but how does vegan change that? Like, I don't get it. Like, mine might have been allergy induced. I don't know what it was. It's just gone. No.
Yeah. So I like to think of it that essentially allergies kind of distract your immune system. So if your kind of baseline level of inflammation is really low, and you have a pathogen come in, your immune system is going to be able to attack that. Whereas if you have allergies and your baseline inflammation is a little bit higher, and your immune system's kind of distracted with this, the allergens, then the pathogen can get in without as much resistance from your body.
So the inflammation is making you vulnerable to the pathogen under the distraction of the allergies.
Essentially, yeah, that's how I like to think of it.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
That's how I like to talk about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good,
that's
pretty good
cool.
analogy, right?
Yeah, I like that. I don't think I've heard that yet. That's cool. I'm just blown away, man. Wow. Like I just never, and I just did it for ethical reasons. So it was just like 5 years later when I had my blood work again, it was like, wait a minute, my cholesterol dropped. I'm getting healthier. What the heck? And then I realized I hadn't even been sick. Like all these years went by and it just didn't occur to me. It took me like 5 years to realize I hadn't been sick.
Well, when you think about it, these phytochemicals are just boosting up your immune system in the background. You don't even know it. When you eat this nutrient-dense diet, it's just excellent for your immune system. And also when you subtract all the ultra-processed and processed foods, because those are bad for your immune system. Sugar is kind of like a similar distraction for your immune system. So it kind of stuns your immune system while your blood sugar is high. So, so like the kids, the traditional kids' birthday party where they get together and eat cake and things like that. And, you've got kids from all different families, all different schools getting together and eating sugar is, just the perfect recipe for children getting sick, essentially.
Yeah, you're making me think also about like my grandparents. I actually felt like a lot of their diseases that made them sick had to do with their diet as well. Especially like every night they would eat ice cream. It was just like such a normal thing, and they would eat it late.
Yeah.
And after eating meat, eggs, and dairy, whatever, every meal.
Right.
And then they finish it off with ice cream. It's like,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of how I grew up too. They essentially kind of get you thinking that you deserve it. You deserve to have a treat. And then, the treats just become more and more often as you can afford it, or just realize that it's so accessible. It just becomes more and more often.
So what's a good alternative? Like, how do you replace the dairy for children? Like somebody told me to ask that specific question, and we may have already made it obvious. We may have already answered it, but maybe let's just make it clear. How do you replace dairy?
So for my children, milk is replaced by soy milk. We do make cashew milk in our house as well, just with the blender, cashews and water. If we run out of soy milk, that's what my girls prefer, is the jugs of soy milk. Or plant strong milks are amazing as well, but we also just blend them up if we run out of the jugs. Super convenient, super quick and easy to make. And then Forager unsweetened yogurts is what we love, the unsweetened vanilla and the original. Forager is a great brand, especially recommend their unsweetened products. And outside of that, there's a local company that makes cashew queso that we love, and bigger brands like Siete make cashew quesos. There are several others out on the market, and so quesos find their way into our fridge quite a bit. They're pretty delicious and flavorful. And outside of that, there are tons of different vegan ice cream options. We don't have a whole lot of ice cream in our family, but if we're going to a birthday party or something like that, we might pick some up and bring it. Cheese, we don't eat really a whole lot of the highly processed cheeses. The closest thing to that we eat is going to be like a Kite Hill or a Tree Line spreadable cheese, more like a cream cheese. So we'll put that on a sandwich instead of like a slice of American cheese that I grew up with. But yeah, I mean, if you wanted the sliced cheese or the grated cheese, there are options out there, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And then when they go to friends' houses, or like, do you have to tell the parents, or do you invite the friends to your house, or how does that work?
Well, typically the parents would know that by now, and we would probably just send our daughters with snacks essentially. So
Same
or
thing
a
as
meal.
birthday parties.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. If we'll see if the person is going to have an option for them or not, and if they don't, we'll purchase or make our own cupcake or something like that. Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder if somebody out there is thinking like, well, then they might feel different or like whatever. It's like, are your kids really that vulnerable? Like, no, I mean, it's okay to be unique. I mean, in one way at least. I mean,
Right.
they're not that fragile, right?
Right. At some point, I think they might struggle with that, but you just have to, and we as adults too, just have to remind ourselves why we're doing it. Essentially, like what's your why, and so the kids can do the same thing. And if the why is, if they don't have much behind their why, then it's going to be a little bit harder for them to stick with it. So. I think that's where, visiting a sanctuary or connecting with the animals can be that moral anchor, as you mentioned before.
Is that something you do then? You go to sanctuaries?
So we have in the past, and we have plans to go to one here in the next couple weeks.
Oh, cool. That is a question I like to know, how you introduce the ethics to the children. Do you also read books, maybe watch documentary, anything like that? Have talks in the grocery aisle, anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. We have some books, and we, if they ever have questions, we just answer them honestly and go from there. But I can't think of any documentaries that we've shown the kids up until this point, but we do just like to have frank, honest conversations on the subject with them and answer their questions. So
your girls might like Wicked. That maybe Wicked?
Yes, they have seen Wicked. Yes.
That's kind of got a vegan thing going on, don't it?
I think they've seen it. That's a
I
good
loved
question.
it. Like, I didn't expect, I was like, what am I watching? Why am I watching this? And then I ended up loving it. I was like, this is awesome. I don't know if you saw it or not, but
I didn't see it.
Okay.
I think they've seen it, but I'm not 100% sure.
What about Okja?
Uh-uh.
Oh, you gotta see Okja. Oh my goodness.
No.
All right, you're gonna owe me one. Watch both of those with your kids. They'll love it.
How do you spell Okja?
OKJA.
Okay. All right.
Last question on the kids. Is there something that you think you might do to ensure that you're fostering their independence in such a way that they will continue staying vegan even when they're no longer under your control?
I think it's important to give them choices as far as, what they eat, what's on their plate, what recipes we cook as a family, and also to just get them into cooking at an early age as well. Sage loves to be in the kitchen and bake and have her hands in the meals. So it's really, I think it's rewarding to educate them to, start to make those decisions and have those skills early in life.
Mm-hmm. So just giving them choices,
Yeah,
within the confines of healthy options.
Right. And then also another thing that we've done is, as I mentioned, growing a lot of food in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So when they make that connection between the plant and then, pulling harvesting the food right there, they're just going to have more appreciation for it as well, just naturally. So
that's awesome. I think the three most important things are raising children vegan, community, and growing food. And you're hitting all that really well. So how can people find you online?
You can find us at vitalitylm.com.
All right. And if somebody wants you from a state that you're in far away, they can do this all virtually.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep. I can definitely help them virtually, and keep in mind, we do accept all major insurance, so that's a big benefit as well to our practice. We are a locally owned, nurse-led team here.
Excellent stuff, man, and it was a pleasure meeting you and your family, and look forward to following your journey, maybe following up one day, maybe crossing paths again, and seeing your kids when they're a little older, and maybe I'll live long enough to see their grandkids.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So yeah, great. Thank you for your time, and I guess we can call that a wrap.
All right.